I want to do something for me. And he's like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, well, let's do a pop-up. Let's open my gate, post on Instagram that we're doing, pizza we'll do donations. We're not going to take money. If they can donate so we can do it again next week, let's do it. First week was like 25 pies, sold out in like 2 hours.
It's crazy. Well, welcome again to the Mr. Knife Guy podcast. We're having a great time. We're going to do something a little bit different today. Today, we're going to take a shift and look at culinary knives. It's a whole different aspect of knives and blades. And we have a very special guest with us today. We've got Chef Chris Tamplin of Sandtown Pizza.
Yep, Sandtown Pizza.
Almost messed that up. This is an honor for us, and I know it's kind of inconvenient because you are killing it out there, and you're super, super busy all the time, and you took time to come and be on our podcast, and we really appreciate that. But I wanted to do a couple things with this podcast to introduce you. I'm sure probably more people know, you than they know me in this city.
Maybe.
So it's self-promotion then.
Yeah.
But you've got a really interesting history, and in my opinion, you're one of the best chefs there is in Southern Utah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I've kind of followed you through your career since I've been here in 2018, and I'm sure it goes way before that, and we can talk about that a little bit.
Cool.
But to me, it's really, really exciting, and you've got a lot to offer. And you recently opened Sandtown Pizza on Bluff.
Yeah, down on Bluff Street. Fun little shop. Used to be the China Palace. We were able to take that over and just revamp the whole place.
Great location.
Super awesome.
It's perfect. And if you haven't been there, I would highly recommend it. It's great. The menu's fantastic, and it's just a fun place to eat. So are you a local?
I am. I was born in Salt Lake City, but I moved down here at a very young age. So I was raised here. I went to school here. Spent in St. George, specifically Ivins, almost my entire life, and then moved out of Ivins when I got married and built a house. So yeah, been here forever.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And when did you start cooking?
I started cooking. I was around if I want to go way, way back, when I was probably 10 years old, at home. My parents were blue collar parents. They were working, they were busy. So me and my brothers, not that they didn't cook for us, but me and my brothers really took the reins and took it on, had fun in the kitchen. Whether it was just putting something in the oven or messing around and putting peanut butter and soy sauce and ramen noodles. We always had fun messing around in the kitchen. But when it got serious, I was 15. So my first job, I got hired as a server for a resort. And it was just fun money. I was a teenager, wanted to ride my bike and skateboard and hang out with my friends, but I needed money. So I went and served and had fun. But I always seen all these people in the kitchen, the camaraderie, the loud noises, the clanking, the loud music, all of that just really interests me. So any chance I got, I was always getting in trouble for hanging out with the cooks. Dude, you need to be out in the dining room. Dude, you need to be out in the dining room. I'm I want to be in here. This is cool. I don't feel like I have an age in here. You know what I mean?
Right.
They see me for who I am.
It's a whole different culture.
Yeah, for sure. And I loved it. I fell in love with it day one. And so I was serving, and then I just started making my way into the kitchen. Could I wash dishes a shift? Anything that opened up in the kitchen, I was I'll take it.
That's awesome.
I'll take it. And then I approached the chef at the time and was hey, could I work in the kitchen? And he let me. But it was all the odd jobs. Cut 25 pounds of onions, peel all these potatoes, and I didn't even care. It was let's do it. Didn't have any knives then. Didn't have any cool shoes or aprons or anything like that. Just went to work after school, and I realized it became less of me wanting to be out and riding my bike and skateboarding, and I wanted to be in the kitchen.
Wow.
I wanted to be learning. Then time went on, and I went to graduated high school, all that. And I thought I wanted to do the whole go to college thing, get a real job. And so I went to school for accounting. I was in the MBA program at Dixie State.
I can't see that.
Yeah, I couldn't either. So I did 2 semesters while still working in kitchens, bouncing around, cooking here and there, or whatever I could do in a kitchen, head in cookbooks, cooking at home, all like my interest was in cooking, but I was like, this is going to be my hobby. I'm going to become a home chef and make a ton of money being an accountant or something stupid like that, So I did 2 semesters, 2 semesters, and I hated it every time. I think the only classes I did pass were my accounting classes, because that's the only thing. I was like, I'm going to school for accounting. I don't give a damn about history. I don't care about science. I don't care about math. I'll focus on so I failed everything. I probably still owe FAFSA money. I don't know. But I failed because I just didn't want to be there. I wanted to be in the kitchen. So
that's awesome.
After that second semester, I sat down. I was like, well, what do I want to do? Do I want to keep failing at college and keep thinking I'm a failure because I suck at school, or do I want to go all in? And I did. I just was like, you know what? Let's hang up the school towel and just cook. So I didn't go to culinary school. I didn't.
You're all self-taught.
Self-taught, and then trained under other cooks and chefs that kind of took me under their wing and just taught me. A lot of YouTube. Honestly, that's a great resource these days that people don't realize we have. I call it YouTube University. I think a lot of other people do too now. Just dive into that, man. Follow those videos along, find someone you like, and just dig into them.
That's awesome.
And that's where I was.
So when I first met you, it was you were working as the head chef at Movara Resort. Mm-hmm. And if you're not local, Movara Resort is kind of how would you describe? I call it a rich fat farm.
It's like a health and wellness retreat.
There you go. That's much more elegant.
Yeah. It's a health and wellness retreat. People come from all over the world to kind of reset themselves.
And it's a great environment. They've got spas. They have, massage and facials and stuff, but they have a very health conscious diet there that the residents or the guests can eat.
Yeah.
And you were responsible for that menu.
Yeah. 3 meals a day, from 30 guests to 90 guests, every single day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, didn't matter. We had to have it ready. We had to plan the menus. We had to plan the food cost, and we were all restricted with calories, protein.
Everything was I don't know if I'd say documented, but you would post like this meal has this many calories and this much protein.
Correct.
And
Yep. Correct. And it was, it was hard as a chef. It was actually really challenging, but I look at it as a positive thing now. A lot of chefs would be like, nah, that sounds, stupid.
It's corporate.
Yeah, exactly. I looked at it as an opportunity, a little bit. Like, it was restrictive, but like, what can I do? How can I push the envelope with these restrictions? How can I? Because I really like to make people somewhat uncomfortable with their food, in a way with my recipes. Like, oh, why would you do that? Or you use the skin of that most people throw away. That's weird, So how could I push that envelope at Movara while maintaining their guidelines and working with the dietitians and stuff? And my team and I nailed it.
You did.
Honestly, for many, many years. It was a hard start. I got pushed into the head chef position when I wasn't ready. I knew how to cook. I knew how to, generally lead a team. I knew nothing about money. I knew nothing about ordering. I'd never submitted an order before, even done an inventory.
Wow.
That hard. Stuff was out of my wheelhouse still at the time. I was 23 years old, and, they fired the dude that was over me, and he was a great guy, but he had some issues, and they just didn't, it didn't work out. And the owner approached me and said, do you want to take this on? And at first I was like, yo, let me talk to my wife. Like, I don't know. For me, I was like, and then I had to, she's like, why wouldn't you? You're great at what you do. And if you don't have it figured out now, you will.
And
what I mean?
It was a great springboard for you.
Yeah, definitely. So getting thrown into that was definitely like you said, a springboard. Like, I had no option but to succeed, or I was going to end up, getting chopped too. Right. So it was a great opportunity to learn and then go back and talk to mentors about, all the stuff I didn't know. Cooking's like, it's not that difficult, but running a team, being motivated, motivating your team and being a consistent leader, that is, and I didn't have those skills at the time, for sure.
So it was a great growth experience for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you say cooking's not that difficult, and it's not hard to follow a recipe. But what makes the difference between a cook and a chef, in my mind, is the innovation. When you start creating your own recipes and you start, like you say, pushing the envelope and putting things in that you wouldn't even. I've eaten some meals that I looked at the menu and I'm like, really? What would that taste like? and you try it and it's fantastic. You would never put those two things together in your mind, but innovative chefs like you, who dare to try it and are successful, that I think I love the innovation and how you're pushing the envelope of the culture. That's great.
Yeah.
So the reason that I was able to associate with you through Movara was because I sharpen knives for them. I get these contracts from different restaurants. I've sharpened knives for many, many restaurants in Southern Utah. And it's kind of cool because I get to go into kitchens because I have a similar background with you. I was a busboy in Salt Lake, and I love cooking. I'm never going to get into it as just a hobby for me, but to watch guys like you who've gone through that whole process and gotten to where you're at is really neat. And I also know which restaurants to stay away from, being in their kitchens.
Yeah, for sure.
There's not too many of those, but so it's neat. So I got to see different chefs at Movara Resort because I kept that contract and watch your progression. How did you get to that point where you were? How many other jobs did you have before Movara?
So Movara was my first big job, actually, like my big boy job. You know what I mean? And I was there for a long time, kind of in and out. Like, God bless them for every time I left thinking I want to do something different. It didn't work out. They took me back. But I had a few. My father-in-law owned a restaurant. It was called El Amate on Sunset, where Regatti's is now.
Oh.
And that was actually probably my first real taste of a restaurant, but it was very small staff. It was family owned. I was just dating my wife at the time, and I'd go in and wash dishes or help clean floors, whatever, for a burrito or some tacos or something.
Cool. Okay.
And then from there, I didn't work in a ton of kitchens. I've worked like odd little corporate, big jobs like Applebee's and all those kinds of places. But my first job in a local kitchen after Movara was Cliffside. And that was awesome. That was a really great experience.
So if you're not from Southern Utah, Cliffside is like the 4 or 5-star restaurant here in Southern Utah.
Yeah, it overlooks the entire city.
It's posh.
Yeah, it's super nice, super fancy. It's considered fine dining. So going from, the resort style where I always knew how many people I had to serve, like almost banquet style dining every day, to a full-blown restaurant doing 300 covers a night was huge. So, and I wanted to get out. When I left Movara, it was to focus on Backdoor Pizzeria, which is now Sandtown, which we'll talk about a little bit later, I'm sure. But it was to focus on that, but it was just a pop-up at the time. So it was like 1 or 2 days a week. So I needed a job to fulfill, the gap. So I took a job as the pantry cook, which is just like making salads and desserts. Huh. And that's all I wanted. I was like, I don't want to run another kitchen right now. It's a lot. I was going through a lot of anxiety. Yeah. Kind of got into a weird funk, like mentally during that time when I left Movara. I just kind of felt like I was trapped by that place. And like, it's nothing against them, but I wasn't progressing. I was just same thing every single day. I wasn't progressing as a chef. I wasn't learning anything new. I was just kind of there. And that's why I ended up leaving. It was no ill intent or nothing on their side or management. I was just like, I just need to expand. And to expand, I think I needed to grow my brand. And that's what I wanted to focus on. So then I took the job at Cliffside, salad, dessert, like I said. And just like, I think just me being who I am, it grew really fast there. I went into Cliffside super level-headed, like I'm just going to be a salad cook. All I got to do is, make 400 salads a day and like go home and, just be a line cook basically. Within 2 months of working there, I was approached to be the sous chef.
Sous chef.
Yeah, and I think it just came from like me having integrity and showing up to work the way I do. I come in every day with my knives, with my Sharpies, with, clean, proud of myself, my non-slip shoes and just feeling good and ready to work. And I would just go to work every day and, have integrity, be proud of what I did, whoever I was working with or whatever I was doing. I knew that I was solid and good in my station. And I think the whole staff just like recognized it. And then they started doing it. The guy that's been working there for 15 years started bringing his notebook to work and like writing down notes because I would do the same thing.
That's one thing that I've noticed about you as I've followed you around is that the environment of the kitchen that you're in, you are an influencer. and you set this great example. You're really, really chill and you're really, really cool. And people like to work around you because it's just this calm, enjoyable environment. You leave and somebody else comes in and the whole kitchen changes.
Yeah.
I've noticed that, I'm tailing behind you. I want to jump a little bit to your tools. And you're talking about when you first started, you didn't have any knives. You probably didn't even know what knives or anything about knives or anything. And I deal a lot with EDC. I specialize in EDC, but I've been an authorized dealer for Schoen for 20 years now. And so I think if I just did culinary knives here in Southern Utah, I'd do really, really well.
Yeah.
Because there's a huge foodie community. But it's a completely different. I interviewed Ben Peterson and we talked a little bit about culinary, and that's kind of funny because he has no interest in that at all.
Yeah.
But the guys who do, that's all their focus is. And so I've noticed that most chefs that are higher end, they have their own knife roll. Mm-hmm. We're going to go to the knife cam here, and you brought your roll.
Yeah, for sure.
This is, and I've seen this roll many, many times because I take care of your knives for you.
Hey, you want me to open it up?
Yeah. So why don't you just
dirty right
talk
now.
us through kind of the progression of like your first knife and.
Yeah, I didn't even bring them all. I just brought kind of what I'm using.
What you're using now.
Right now. So this is what I'm using currently, and there's a microplane in there too. I guess I could pull that out. These are always fun. I have a couple knife bags. I generally per job or whatever I feel like
switch
them up. So I don't bring my big cleavers if I know I'm not breaking down chicken or if I'm not, breaking down fruit, I don't bring my paring knives with me. But this is kind of my arsenal right now that I'm using the most in the pizza shop. We'll start with my oldest one.
So let's talk about, first of all, there's really two different schools of thought when it comes to kitchen knives. You've got your Western, German, like your Wustavs and your Henkels, and those are the top end, the best German. And that used to be what was most popular.
Yeah.
And you sell that in every kitchen and home kitchen. And, you still see a lot of Henkels and Wustavs. But then there started to be an Eastern influence from the Japanese, and that's a completely different school of thought with different steels, different materials, different shapes. Seems like the Japanese, they've got a different tool for every single job.
Yeah,
and they've got a name for all of their different shapes and cutting and usages. So it looks like you mostly have Japanese knives here.
Yes.
And I've also seen that in my store. When I was in Chandler, I carried Wustav and Schoen. Mm-hmm. And when I moved to St. George, I phased out with the German because nobody wanted them anymore. Yeah, everybody's shifting over to Japanese, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah, there's a couple reasons. I think one, because they're made well, they're great, and they just understand what's needed for each job. But also, they're just like the cool thing right now too. Like everyone wants a cool Japanese knife because one, like the Damascus looks sick, or they see another chef using them. German knives are great too. You know what I mean? Like that's my home knives. The ones I have at home are just like my old Mercers that I grew up with.
Right.
I keep them sharp. I use them every day, and they're great. But I do love like the workability of the Japanese style.
So they're lighter, mostly. Yeah, overall, they're lighter. There's less hand fatigue, and again, they're designed specifically for the task at hand.
For sure.
So the one that you pulled out, I love this knife. It's one of the coolest knives, and I love that it's pie.
Yeah,
kind of goes along with you, and it's called a Kiritsuki.
Yeah. So the guy that makes this, his name is Jody Hale. He designs these knives, and he does custom knives as well. Like this. They're super, super fun, super usable. The handles are incredible. This is like one of the lower end, I would say, of his knives, and this is a EABEL still? How do you say that?
AEBL.
AEBL still. And I've had this knife, I think you've been sharpening it since like 2018. So I think I probably got it in 2017.
Yeah. AEBL is a premium, high-end, high-performance steel. It doesn't get much better than that.
Right. And this is my go-to every day. I use that knife probably every day for almost every job I can, unless I'm cutting something gigantic, because it is short. And he calls it a bunka. Which I don't know the difference between that and the Kiritsuke.
It's like a short Kiritsuke.
Yeah, because it's only, I think, like 7 inches. It's also
wider.
Yeah, and this is a workhorse. I sharpen it to 22 degrees, which is odd for most Japanese knives, but it's like I just prep with it, so that edge holds a lot longer when it's not so fine. And that's what it came stock as well. Oh. So the knife maker told me that's what he sharpens this knife specifically.
Okay.
Too.
So I mean, we could do a whole series of podcasts just on sharpening alone,
No,
skills
definitely.
and sharpening. One thing I love about this is this is called the bolster right here. And it looks like burled maple that's been dyed. Absolutely gorgeous. And then another type of wood, probably ebony, or do you know what the handle wood is?
I don't remember now, no. But
So when you talk about angles, that's another difference between German and Japanese knives is German knives are usually sharpened at 18 to 20 degrees per side. So if it's 20 degrees, it would be a 40-degree included edge is what they call that. I don't know if it's this knife of yours. You have a knife that's got 2 different degrees. It's like a compound.
yeah, that's the Misono. It's a 70 on one side and 30 on the
Right,
other. Yeah.
right. So, and then most Japanese knives are between 16 degrees, and I've seen them as narrow as 14 degrees.
I think this one right here, we do it at a 12. And that's what the factory does it to.
That's crazy.
As well as 12. And that's the Miyabi. And that's...
This is a really popular brand. And absolutely gorgeous. So this is, the core of the knife is VG10, which is that's probably the most popular Japanese steel. It's made in Seki City, Japan. And then it's clad with like around 70 layers of Damascus and also a burled handle. And this pin right here is a mosaic pin. And they're really cool. What they do is they take like a silver or brass or a copper tube, not silver, but like nickel. And they'll drop rods down into it. And then they fill it with epoxy and cross-cut it.
It's so cool.
And that's what the pins are made of. If you look really close, you can see all the different little rods.
This knife it took me a little while to be comfortable with it because I was so used to using, I really like shorter knives typically. They just feel more comfortable in my hand. This is a 9.5 inch.
Crazy.
So when I got it, I felt like I was holding a sword all the time. And I was super weird about cutting with it. And it felt really weird. Now I love it, but I feel like I only use it's hard to use the entire blade for me. So if I'm just chopping onions, I'm usually like this much of the blade.
Right.
Just pop, 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 pop.
That's funny. When I sharpen, I can tell exactly what part you're using.
And then this knife, it's always like back here. It's funny.
Awesome. What else do you have for us?
This one was a local knife maker. You know more about this knife than I do. I bought it because it felt great.
That's funny.
Awesome.
I brought the twin.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. I actually brought the twin to that knife to show. And it is local. The guy's name is Zared Barlow. He's a really quiet guy, very unassuming. And he forged this knife. And it is a Damascus. And I cannot even remember it's a high carbon steel.
It's high carbon. I think you said there's nails in there or something like that. Yeah,
this one has concrete nails, and you can actually see the heads of the nails in some of the pattern, like right there, so on both sides. And I had another one, you could see a chunk nail right there. But he does, it's like canned Damascus, where you throw a bunch of whatever you want in the can, and then you fill it with powdered metal, and then you forge it and pound it out, and that's how it turns out. It's just beautiful.
It's crazy how much this knife has changed, because it looked a lot more like that.
Yeah.
And then it just keeps the patina. And
Yep, it patinas, and then the oils from your hand just enrich the handles. Yeah. And so that's a handmade knife right there. I'm glad you like it.
I love it. I leave this one on the magnet sometimes at work, just like forgetting about it, and I always see somebody with it. And I don't get mad at my cooks for using my knives, but I'm always like, just be careful with that one. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, be careful. And they love using that knife specifically. Like, it feels so good. And it almost has like the German style blade.
It does.
But very Japanese tech.
So that is one of the first kitchen knives that Zared ever did.
Really?
Ever, yeah. He was doing hunting knives. And I said, hey, you should do some kitchen knives. Mm-hmm. And so he came with a bunch of them. This is a Santoku. It's a Japanese chef's knife. Mm-hmm. And he brought it in, and I'm like, that's a really weird length for a Santoku. Zared, they need to be either like 7 inches or 5.5 inches is, standard. It can be whatever you want, but I think this is
cool.
like
I'm all for dudes doing
1/4.
whatever they want. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what I did with my restaurant. Not classically trained, not sticking to any type of specific style of pizza. We're just doing our own thing. So I feel like it's cool when you see other people doing their own thing, whether there's rules to it or not.
There's no right.
As long as it's functional.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And you could stumble on something that becomes the industry standard eventually.
Yeah.
So there's no right.
Just because some guy said it's right, that doesn't mean anything.
Yep. And then tell me about this knife.
Oh, man.
I know what it is.
That's the TJ Maxx special. TJ Maxx over the holidays, they always have these like cool little Japanese stainless steel knives.
It's a Yanagiba.
Yeah, and this one's single bevel. So
as all Yanagibas are.
Yeah. And I just use this one for like skinning fish and things like that, things I need to lay flat and get them really precise or really intricate slices. Like I like to slice the lemons. We do a super thinly sliced lemon at the restaurant, and I like to use this knife for that. It gets it paper thin every time. And I mean, it's not the best steel, but as long as I keep it sharp, it does what I need it to. I don't feel bad if, it gets banged up. And I feel like it's always good to have a couple of those knives in your roll. One big one I always see is the brand Kiwi.
Yeah.
They're like
horrible,
but like a lot of cooks have them.
Yeah, I see a lot of them too.
That you can sharpen them razor sharp really easily. Yep. And then you just don't worry about them if, someone grabs them or they get thrown in the dish pit or
I don't know if you could tell on the knife cam on this handle. I don't know if it'll focus, but it's not round or oval. It's called a D shape. It's got kind of an angle right here so that it fits very comfortably in either hand. Mm-hmm. Also on the Yanagiba, I always get my vowels mixed up. This single-sided grind is called a chisel grind. It's ground like a chisel. It's only sharpened on one side, like you said. And they're traditionally sushi knives or sashimi knives, actually. Yeah,
they're a lot of fun. It was a learning curve at first to use it, honestly, because of that single bevel and what it was actually supposed to be used for. You can't just go like julienne a bunch of onions with it.
Right.
So I used it a lot in Movara for breaking down chicken breasts. We take the big ones and put them down into 4 ounces so you can get that nice thin slice and that 4 ounce super consistent, super clean cut.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting when you're comparing German knives to Japanese knives. Like they both have fillet knives for fish or chicken or whatever, but they look completely different.
Right.
And I brought an example of a Japanese fillet knife, but I didn't bring a German one to compare. So maybe we won't do that. But so yeah, these are your tools. This is how you, just like a carpenter or anyone going to a job, they, like you're saying, depending on what job it is, you'll load up your roll with whatever tools you'll need for that job.
Yeah, correct.
And it's going to be different some of the time.
Some of the time. I have a big cleaver. I know I bought it from you. I don't remember the steel, but I take that for when we're adding a roasted half chicken to our menu. So when we have to break those down, that big guy gets right in between that spine and just boom, busts it out.
Perfect.
So if I'm doing anything like that, then, I know to bring that knife or if I have a job where it's a lot of intricate little cuts and fruit and stuff like that, I'll bring my paring knife or my petty knife. But yeah, for the most part, these are my mains.
It's cool. I love petties too.
I do too. They're so fun to work with.
Petties and gyottos.
Yeah, they're good things to work with. I should have brought one of them at least, but I was kind of scrambling around this morning getting all my stuff.
I got a Shun. Their utility knife is basically a petty. I'm going to reach over here to my roll.
I almost brought my sous chef's Kramer in. He has a Kramer Zwilling. It's so cool. It's
so funny because Zwilling is German for twins.
Yeah.
Zwilling means twins.
Right.
And when you see the Henkel's knives, if you look on their Solingen-made high-end German knives, they have two guys standing there.
Yeah.
That's the Zwilling. They're twins. And I always tell my customers, because sometimes you can buy a Henkel's international knife and it's just got one guy standing there. And those are like...
Those are the other TJ Maxx specials.
Yeah. They're horrible. Except for the ones made in Spain. They're made, they could be China, they could be Brazil, they could be anywhere. But the Spain international ones seem to hold their edge really well.
Check them out.
So I brought, this is a high carbon. It's kind of cool. And that's similar to a petty. This is a Shun, and it's their only high carbon line that they do. And they have micarta handles on there. I don't know if you can see. It's kind of a sanmai. I'm trying to get the reflection so that you can see the pattern on the blade. It's kind of neat. So as you use this knife, it oxidizes and it turns blue. It's kind of a blue Japanese steel.
So cool.
but that's similar to a petty. It's a little bit fatter, but so anyway, yeah, I do want to talk more about what you're doing. And you mentioned when you were working at Cliffside, you started Backdoor Pizza. You just mentioned that.
Yeah.
And I remember when Backdoor Pizza came out, it was the coolest thing that you did. And the way that you did it, you utilized Instagram with your ordering.
Yeah.
And it was very specialized. You were basically making handmade custom pizzas, gourmet pizzas out of your house.
Yeah, pretty much.
Out the back door of your house.
Yeah, I was actually at Movara when I started it, but it was still on the very small end. You know, we were still doing friends and family only and things like that, and only selling like 20 to 25 pizzas every Friday. It started out of like that feeling of like I wasn't progressing, right? It was like I need to do something else, whether it's at Movara or anywhere else. You know what I mean? Yeah, something that's me and something that I want to create. And I've been making pizza since about 2017, like as a hobbyist. The first book I read was called Pizza Camp, and it really got me into it. Shout out Frank Pinello from the Pizza Show on Vice. Right. I just was able to meet him this week.
So cool.
The best dude, super knowledgeable about pizza, like a real inspiration of mine. Watched that, you know, dived into that on YouTube, and just the first pizza recipe I think I made and felt dialed with was Frank Pinello's. I was making it in my apartment in an old Camp Chef pizza oven, and just was making pizza for fun, you know, and really looked at it as like a hobby. But I always loved pizza. I had this little dream that if I ever opened a shop, it would be a pizza by the slice shop. But it was like one of those grimy ones, like super like skater influenced, arcade machines in the back, you know, Pabst Blue Ribbon for $2, like loud music, like that kind of vibe was what I thought I wanted, or what I knew I wanted. So, yeah, we started Backdoor Pizzeria. My buddy came to me, my now business partner, and was like, "Hey, we should teach me how to make pizza like you."
So you bought some different ovens, some propane pizza ovens.
Yeah,
right?
So we started out with the brand Uni. I had one. I found it on. So I had that Camp Chef one I talked about, and it sat like on top of my flat top, and then heated a stone, and it just wasn't giving me the results I was looking for. You know, that cool leoparding and the nice poofy big crust. I was getting like a small cracker crust. I could only get it to like 650 degrees max.
Now that's my wife's favorite pizza.
Yeah,
she loves the thin crispy crust.
Nice. So I found an Uni on Facebook Marketplace, which was like one of the big brands at the time doing the backyard pizza oven things. And I bought it, took it home, you know, cooked a few pizzas in it. It was a learning curve at first as well. I was burning pies left and right. And but you learn things when you burn things. You know, that's what I had to figure out. So my friend came, you know, we nailed it. I got it in. Ended up catering my buddy's baby shower. That was kind of like my first gig. It was a mess, but it's cool. It worked out. And then my friend, now business partner, was like, "Hey, we should do this together, and like you could teach me." You know, we were both kind of working super part-time because of the pandemic. It's like, teach me how to make pizza. So for a few weeks, he was coming over back and forth and just making pies. And then we were like, dude, like, I want to do something, you know, I want to do something for me. And he's like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, well, let's do a pop-up. Let's open my gate, post on Instagram that we're doing, you know, pizza we'll do donations. We're not going to take money. If they can donate so we can do it again next week, let's do it. First week was like 25 pies, sold out in like 2 hours.
It's crazy.
Using the Unis, the whole night was messy, to say the least. It was good. Like the pizza came out good, but like fighting with the ovens, still learning how to use the ovens because they were pellet fed. Oh. They weren't gas. These ones were pellets. So dealing with the pellets was difficult. So by the third pop-up, there was this brand floating around called Gozney. And I've been seeing them all over. Like Maddie Matheson was using them, making videos for them. All the cool kids were using Gozney, you know? And I'm like, they were in like, I think they were in the US, but mostly in the UK at the time. And I was like, I got to get my hands on one of these. So saved up a little bit of money from the donations, bought the Gozney Rock Box, fired that thing up as soon as it got there, made a couple pies in it, sold both the Unis and bought another.
Game changer.
Yeah, game changer overnight. bought another rock box. So we were up 2 rock boxes now. Let's kick it into gear. So now, we felt comfortable with them. They were consistent. The gas burned consistent. The flame wasn't so close to the pizza. We weren't just slaving away worrying about burning pizzas. We were creating consistency.
Pizzas,
we were making like consistently good pizza.
And I love it because like you grow your own basil and put fresh basil on and stuff like that.
We just like to use what's around us. We don't pride ourselves in bringing in flour from Italy or bringing, tomatoes from Naples. And yet, like, I'm just using what's around us, what grows here, and as much as I can, So our flour is from Central Milling, which is out of Logan, Utah.
Okay.
Our tomatoes are Bianco di Napoli, which is Rob di Napoli and Chris di Napoli's brand. That tomatoes are grown in California. They're all organic, field to can in 4 hours.
Nice.
Our cheese, I wish we could get something local, but no one's pulling curd, mozzarella curd right now. But we are working on a program to start doing our own within the next year or so.
And I'm still considering growing mushrooms for you.
Yes, that would be awesome. So we have a mushroom guy too, Southern Utah Micro Farms. He grows some amazing mushrooms, microgreens. Like anything we need is here in Southern Utah. We have a guy planting a greenhouse full of tomatoes for us. So next year we can actually can our own tomatoes.
That's awesome.
And that was the whole idea behind it, right? Not to create an Italian pizza or a New York style pizza. Take what we like from all of those things, those influences. What do we like about New York? Okay, the crispiness. What do we like about Neapolitan? Okay, the cool cornichone. Now let's make our own unique pizza.
I love that.
Right, using stuff that's here in Southern Utah.
So were you eventually approached by Gozney?
Yeah, so I was doing a pop-up in my backyard, actually. It was like a sold-out day. Because we used to just upload on Instagram, like, hey, I'm doing 50 pies tonight. Book on this website what time you're going to show up and what pizzas you want. And like we did like 3 or 4 pizzas on the menu. That was it.
So it's pretty cool. I mean, if you followed Backdoor Pizza on Instagram, you would get these alerts. Okay, we're gonna go. It's Friday. What do you want? And you could place your order online. And then you just drive up and pick it up.
To a random townhome.
It's so cool.
Like walk to a gate and be like, yeah, you guys got pizza? So awesome. Like you could smell it like a mile away. It's funny the HOA never cracked down on us, but I would have just gave them a pizza and they wouldn't have cared anyway. Right. So a couple neighbors were like, hey, what are you guys doing with all this parking? And I was just like, here's a pizza, man. And they're like, oh,
shut up.
Yeah, they're like, cool. It's cool. So yeah, it felt super underground to us. And I think that's what kicked it off is people, right now we're in the age of the pop-up. Honestly, people doing things like that and just stepping out of the norm and the corporate things, like those are the people that are doing awesome things. And like people like me or people like us, we see that and we want to get a taste of it. I want to know that burgers in someone's backyard are selling out. Like I want to go there and check that out.
Exactly.
My buddy runs a bar. It's like a cocktail pop-up in Salt Lake City called Bitter Lovers. And it started as a pop-up. He would take over a bar for a night. Now he's done one in Japan. He's done one in Mexico City.
Wow.
And like he's looking at just doing that all over the world, popping up. And he sells out and he does great and has a cool vibe. So
you did a pop-up at Wood Ash Rye as well.
Yeah, we did like a restaurant takeover at Wood Ash Rye. We did, instead of a specials menu, we did Backdoor Pizzeria menu.
That's so cool.
And I went with like 4 pies. They have a big brick oven inside, so we just used that. And we sold the place out. They said at the time they hadn't been booked out like that in like a year.
That's great.
So
okay, go back and tell me how you got discovered by Gozney.
So it was the craziest thing. We're making pizza in the backyard. This guy comes in. His name's Kyle. And he's like, and I'm like, hey, man, sorry, like we're sold out. And he's like, oh, I'm Kyle with Gozney. And like my heart just sank. Like I was like,
what'd I do wrong?
And we're all looking like, and I had just gotten the Gozney Dome, which was like their brand new oven at the time. So it was like fresh out of the box like that day. He was traveling up from the Pizza Expo and heard about us and stopped by. And now him and I are like good friends. So he approached me, told me about some stuff that Gozney was working on as far as like brand ambassadors and things like that at the time, and introduced himself. I was able to like get him a pizza. We had some extra ones and chop it up for a little bit. And then the relationship built off that. He approached me then, and then a few months later, I got an email from his name's Nate. He runs like all the relationships with all of they call it the Pizza Collective. So they're brand ambassadors and things like that. He said, hey, you're part of this, man. Like Like
And then
you're
ended
part of the
up
club
going,
now.
Was it like Park City you ended up going to for a training or something?
No,
What was that?
I went to Heber for them in 2023 to do. They called it Camp Gozney. They had me, Brandon Price from Salt Lake, and then Matt from the Pizza Yard, and Ryan and Ashley from Outside Pizza. So a bunch of different pizza makers from Denver and Northern Utah and myself go up and like do this huge class, basically a training for retailers. So they flew in all of their major retailers to this huge cabin up in Heber, and we stayed there for 3 days and just like did like pizza camp.
That
basically
is so
with
cool.
with these people. So like Home Depot was there, people from Ace Hardware, like anywhere they sell their
Gozney's.
ovens, anywhere they sell Gozney, yeah, we're at this house, and they got to go out and do excursions and stuff. And then
So you were cooking for them?
Yeah, we were cooking for them, and it didn't feel like work at all. It was like one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. You know, usually like private chef gigs are like intense and super labor intensive, but like you took like 5 chefs that had never met each other before, get in the back of Matt's truck, the owner of the Pizza Yard in Midway, and drive around Midway and source ingredients for 3 days worth of food from local farms. Like, it was one of the coolest things ever. And no one was like, there was no cool guys, you know, everyone was like, okay, we're going to grab this vegetable, this vegetable, this vegetable. We went back to the kitchen and just like made the coolest food I've ever made. Like some of the best things I've ever tried came out of that Camp Gozney experience.
That is awesome.
Yeah, and we were all just able to band back together this last week up in Salt Lake and do the Gozney, their corporate sales meeting. So their global sales meeting, actually. So all their salesmen from all over the world were there, Australia, Germany.
Wow. So that kind of spark, I need to open my own place. When was that?
So Sandtown, when did that hit? Was honest. So we left the backyard. Right, we were doing so much out of the backyard. It went from 25 to like 100 plus pizzas out of my backyard. So my home was a restaurant, basically. There was dough boxes everywhere all the time. My little bay sink was always full of dishes. I have 2 kids, so that was insane. You know, having 2 kids, and the restaurant in there. My garage was literally just a storage space. It had a huge fridge. So that just got overwhelming, you know, for my wife and I and the kids, and like home didn't feel like home anymore. As cool as it was to be like at home working, plus my normal job, right? Like I was still at Cliffside during all this. So we ended up being like, all right, what are we going to do? Let's go to farmers markets. So we went to the store Mofico, which was on Main Street.
Right.
And they did a thing called a foodie roundup on Saturdays. So it was always like me, Joe Barbecue, super cool dude that started, you know, barbecue out of his house too. And then like various other little vendors like selling salsa or things like that. So we'd pop up right in the back of the store. And that was our gig, you know, instead of Fridays, we were Saturdays now, 10 to 2 in the back of the store, and had the Gozneys like inside with the door open, just hoping we didn't get shut down for it. So it was a little sketchy, but we made it work. And yeah, we'd sell a bunch of pizza, sell them out. It was nice to be indoors and have a little bit of consistency, you know, consistent temps. To keep our dough right. And then from there, you know, they stopped doing the foodie roundup because the farmers market was coming back. So we're like, let's do the downtown farmers market. Signed up for that, started doing catering as well. So during this time, we got a commissary kitchen. So we were out of the house now. We had a commissary kitchen, somewhere we could go prep after work instead of going home, prepping, and then not feeling like I was at home. I was able just to go from job to job, prep, and then actually go home.
Be home.
Yeah. So we did that, went to the farmer's market, and just huge success at the farmer's market. We'd always do a thing called a market special. So we'd walk the farmer's market the day of, buy a bunch of vegetables or produce and stuff we could find, and then the following week use those on the menu.
That's awesome.
So we were always rotating the menu, which was super cool. But we started with 120, which, 4 hours, 120 pizzas, that doesn't sound bad, lined to the street of people, 120, 2.5 hours.
Crazy.
So it didn't really matter how much we took to the farmer's market. But then again, the same thing happened. Like, okay, well, we can only produce so much pizza. And it was getting really hard, with 2 kids and keeping this pop-up going. And
farmers markets are hard too because you have to move everything. You have to pack everything up and move it and set it up and then break it down and then pack it up again.
So a farmer's market that starts at 10, my day starts at 6 just to set it up. That doesn't count prep the day before because I make my dough 2 days in advance. So I'm making dough on Thursday for Saturday, and then Friday it was like if I don't get to packing, then I wake up super early, pack the car, but I can't load food and stuff until morning of, and then get to the market at 8, be set up by 10, and then same thing, tear down, dishes, all that. So it was like a 10-hour day just on the markets. But so it's hard, and it's hard on the body. And some days we'd have two events in one day. So we'd go to the market in the morning, go break it all down, clean it, and get it ready to load up for something at night. Another market at night or a wedding or a birthday party, whatever it was. And those 2 days are tough.
Can't even imagine.
Yeah, so the same thing kind of happened, right? We had a small little commissary, no mixer. So this whole time from start to from the jump to the day I get Sandtown, I didn't have a mixer. I'm, on a step stool, big jug, like big container, mixing everything by hand. Just doing it. 100 pizza, 120, making like 3 or 4 batches of those. Yeah, we did a Home Depot expo actually. So backpedaling to Gozney, we did the Home Depot expo for them. And that's like 400 or 500 pizzas a day, and it's 2 days long. And I made all that dough by hand.
Oh my gosh.
And we balled it all by hand.
So you have a mixer now, though.
Yeah, well, we have a mixer now.
Good.
No dough baller, but we do have a mixer now. But anyways, where was I? So the commissary got too small, basically, with everything we were doing, with catering, with the markets. Like, we just couldn't produce enough. And I'm like, I don't want to sell out every time we go, right? Like, it's cool to sell out, but what is actually our sold out number? If 180 people want a pizza, like, I want to be the guy to be able to give that, And so we're like, what's really, like, what is our next step? And we always said that Backdoor Pizzeria, that's what we started out as, would like die as a pop-up. When that stopped, or when we stopped doing, if we moved on into something else, Backdoor Pizzeria would be done, right? And we'd come up with something else, something bigger. So that's kind of what birthed Sandtown Pizza. I started looking at locations. One was the Ace Hardware Complex, which was cool because that was in Sandtown, actually. And then we got some education about, St. George a little bit and the name and what it meant. And like, it just like that day, like right when I heard it, it clicked.
So where did the name come from? What does it mean?
So Sandtown, back in like the 50s, 60s, it used to be like a nickname for a neighborhood here in St. George. So diagonal specifically all the way to the corner of Bluff. It used to be those mountains that are right there used to like turn into like a quarry. And it was just a bunch of sand and dirt. And when the wind would pick up, it would blow sand all over the area. Okay. So people would call it Sandtown.
Got it.
And that's how it got its name. And it was kind of like the working class, like rougher neighborhoods of St. George. Yeah, like the blue collar area, which just like felt our vibe and like my upbringing like perfectly. So as soon as I heard that history and the name, I was like, that's it. And, like the people that know it, and they like appreciate us for it.
Yeah, you're in the perfect location.
Yeah, so we're a little bit farther from Sandtown technically, but we wanted to keep the name alive at least. You got Sandtown Park, and it's cool though. Like people from out of town, they come in, they're like, what does Sandtown mean? Is it because this place has red dirt? And like our servers give them the history, and they're like, that's really cool. You're honoring the name. Or, an older gentleman will come in and that moved here in the late 60s, and he's like, giving us handshakes and stuff because he's from Sandtown.
That's
you know
awesome.
what I mean? And like, so the people that know it, and they love us for it. And that's what I love about the name. So we got like a big old map of St. George on the wall, and like it's highlighted.
I love your decor. The decor is worth coming to the restaurant just to see.
Oh, yeah.
It is so awesome.
Yeah,
it's kind of like almost 50s diner in a way.
Yeah, in a way, that's kind of what we were going for. I was kind of going for like a look, like how my brain feels, I guess, I like nice things, but I'm also very DIY, and I grew up skateboarding and in the punk scene and making hardcore and punk music, which is a very DIY scene. You wanted to have a concert, man, you find some dude with a basement or a house that you can have it at. You want to go skate, like you build a ramp if you can't get to the skate park, you know what I mean? So I grew up in that culture a lot. So I wanted to bring that into the restaurant while like I also really like I said, nice things, right? So I wanted it to feel like you can get a little bit of everything. So when you walk in, you're going to see the bottom of our bench is just a bunch of chopped up skateboards, which was a really cool story because I just posted on Facebook like, hey, looking for some skateboards for a project for the restaurant. And like from little kids to pro skaters, like gave
No
us
way.
skateboards within days. Like
That
they
is
were
so
like,
cool.
that sounds cool. So like my history with skateboarding and all that's kind of in there. We did that whole bench ourselves. Right. So that
is
was
so
all
cool.
one guy that we hired for the woodwork, which I went to school with. And then my partner and we just went in and did it, and so it's all DIY. A lot of it's DIY. We built the shelves hanging from the ceiling.
It looks very professional.
Yeah,
It
thank you.
does.
So
Looks good.
I suck at all it. So credit to the guys that just told me what to do, because I can cook, but designing, woodwork and things like that's totally out of my wheelhouse. But they totally killed it in the shop. And then the wall of all the decor, all the pictures and stuff is really a combination of stuff that I had from like growing up, just like stuff I kept in like boxes. And then stuff from my staff and family members and things like that. So it's just like, if you want to hang something on the wall, do it.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
You
like
got to come and see Sandtown Pizza right
pretty
on
cool.
Bluff Street. If you're not from Southern Utah, come and visit just for the food, because it's a huge food culture. There's a lot of natives and imports, people coming from California who demand that culture.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I said, if I just did culinary knives, I would do fine, because it's huge here, and it's a great destination spot for the culinary community.
Definitely. It's just getting bigger too. Like
It is.
I hope that dudes like me or people like me that were, hoping to do something for so long but felt like they couldn't because of whatever reason, we show them whatever happens with us, it shows them like you can do it. If you got a cool idea, there is community here and they support you. And as long as you support them back and do things for your community, and it does things back to you. And it's like, there's a lot of cooks in this town that can do a lot of really cool things, that have a lot of really cool ideas. And it's just letting them get their shot.
So what's the next step? What's the future look like for Sandtown Pizza or for Chef Chris Tamplin?
Honestly, for me and for Sandtown, I just want to build Sandtown to be even better than what it is now and do more for our community. We want to really be a place, not just a restaurant, but a place that like people feel safe at. And we know, that when you come to Sandtown, like these guys are doing cool things and that they care about people. Our shop, like one, it's a business, but two, it's for everyone. It's for everyone else, not just for me and not just to make money. It's to give back, to support farmers, to support St. George, to honor, this cool town. And then to show, like I said, the little guys that like they can do it too. These cooks that are in kitchens that have cool ideas or want to open like a cool taco spot, but like are scared. Like that's what Sandtown's for, right? Jump at it and just do it.
That's great.
Like
You're
it's
such a great
scary.
example.
It's scary, but like you have to do it.
All right. Well, I know this has been a hectic day for you. And I appreciate you taking time out, because you're short staffed and other things going on. But I did really, really want to get you behind the mic and talk to you, because you've got so much to offer. And I've just always admired you and watched your career. And there's a lot more to the story, and maybe we'll have you on again.
Cool.
Is there anything that you wanted to add or talk about?
You know what? No, not really. I think we're okay.
Give a shout out to Karen for all the support.
Yeah, shout out to my wife, honestly. Without her, we wouldn't be here. She supported me opening a restaurant in my backyard. She supported me doing the craziest thing ever and opening a restaurant and working 16, 17-hour days. Like, honestly, we wouldn't be here without Karen.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Chef.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being on.